Hello and welcome to the Runna podcast. Today we have an exclusive. I've just chatted to Lachlan and Stefan, who have just finished running the length of the UK. And not just that, they spoke about running across Australia last year. Together they had to navigate some of the craziest things. I've never experienced Brotherhood like it. From having to go through a potentially life-threatening blood infection, a fractured femur, and their mum kicking them out because of just how crazy their challenge was. And this was all to raise money for cancer research because it's something they've been personally affected by. You'll love listening to this. Let's get into it. Hey, Steph and Lach, how are you?
It's a massive relief to be done. The pain is now over, but also at the same time, it's a bittersweet feeling because it does feel a little bit, dwelling that we have finished this challenge now and you don't really know what to do with yourself.
Yeah, you were saying like you feel like you're back in humanity now. It has been a long time and we're going to get into it. But I think we should start at the beginning because you guys weren't endurance runners before the challenge. How did it all start? Have you always been running partners? Are you competitive? Who's the better runner?
Well, yeah, firstly, I'm the better runner. No, we started from a very young age. We were probably 6 years old. And in Australia, we have this sport called Australian rules football. So if you can imagine a cross between soccer and rugby, it's like a hybrid between the two. And our old man used to take us to the park and he just used to make us run and kick for hours on end every day, morning and night. We loved it. We lived AFL and we played this all the way up until Steph was around 20 years old and he did 2 ACLs and had 3 knee surgeries. So he went through the ringer and then I had a lot of concussions. So this sport wasn't really all about endurance. It was more like stop-start sprinting. Mm-hmm. And then because we had all these injuries, we're like, we just got to call this and do something epic. And then one day I came downstairs and I was working as a physiotherapist. I just came out of university. Steph was working in an office job for finance. And I said, Steph, we need to run across Australia. And he's like, you've never even done a marathon before. How are you going to run 85 marathons in a row? Turns out the next day he comes downstairs and says, look, let's do it. Let's start training. Let's do it in 6 months. And then, 6 months later, that's how we started. We tracked across Australia.
You said that you stopped AFL because you were getting injured, and now you're sitting there with both feet bandaged up with your crutches. Like, you've been through a lot. So you ran across Australia last year, and then more recently, you've just ran across the UK. How hard was running across Australia, and why did you do it?
That was probably one of the toughest challenges of our life, if arguably not the hardest. It was just a dry terrain across the Nullarbor and 2,000 kilometres of just pure desert. So the whole trip was 3,400 kilometres from Perth to Melbourne. And our big why, I guess at the time, we were both working our full-time jobs and we weren't just so fulfilled in that. And probably 10 years prior to that, we saw our grandmother passed away from cancer. So we saw the detrimental effects that had on her health. And then more recently at that time, our other grandma was going through treatment. So she had to get her throat cut. And that was really tough for us because she was like a second mother to us our whole life. So seeing her go through it, we were like, wow. So I guess we started a little bit of a journey doing like these YouTube challenges. And as Locke said, he came home one day after hearing about somebody that was actually walking across America at the time. And he said, Steph, I reckon we should do this run to try to raise awareness for cancer research. I thought he was crazy. And then we just went out there after 6 months of training and gave it a crack. And as you would expect, with only 6 months training, there was a lot of injuries, a lot of obstacles, a lot of setbacks. I think it was day 5 and Locke sitting in a hospital bed. I'm there on a chair and I'm just hearing beep, 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 beep. And he's got like a drip inside of him and essentially like he was so dehydrated. And not only that, his shin was double the size of his other leg. So it was quite crazy to see. So there was a lot of setbacks on that Australian run, but we did manage to just keep taking one foot in front of the other and get across the whole country, which was quite remarkable.
It is absolutely crazy. Did your parents not think, what are my boys doing? Like, you said they brought you up to be competitive, but surely this was a step further.
Yeah, this was wild. Our old man, he just loved football. And I think what hurt him the most was the fact that we stopped playing footy. He just absolutely loved it. But when we decided that we're going to run across Australia, our mum just started bawling her eyes out. She's like, you guys have been to uni for 4 years each. You've got a degree. You got a good job. I've set you up. I used to read to you when you were younger. I taught you how to bloody read, little kids. Like, and now you're just blowing it all up against the wall. So she actually wanted to kick us out of the house at one point. It was getting ugly in the house. And we're like, Mum, you just got to back us in. Like, on social media at the time, we only had 2,000 followers and no one thought we'd be able to complete this mission. It was just us two. We had this dream. And blow me down. Like 6 months later, we ran across Australia. We raised $250,000 for cancer research back at home. And we also grew a social media following at the time of over 700,000 across our platforms. And then after we came home, Mum was like, oh, you know what, guys? Like, that was a pretty good idea. You did something pretty cool. And Dad was like, oh, yeah. Like, it's all right that you're not playing footy anymore. What you're doing is kind of cool.
Well, yeah, I think your mum will be very proud of you now. You said that they didn't believe you could do it. Were there parts when you didn't believe you could do it? You also said you didn't train, well, you only had 6 months to train. How much of it was mental resilience?
I think particularly on that Australian run, we have like a little pie chart theory, we call it now. So we say it's a third mental, a third physical, and a third strategic. Believe it or not, that Australian run, the only thing that I think truly got us through was the third of the mental. I think the physical aspect and both the strategic as well, we didn't really have too much of that going on. And particularly across Australia, it was just so challenging to find good sources of food because, as I said before, the Nullarbor is like 2,000 kilometers long. So we were having cold tuna and rice at the end of the day. So as you could imagine, our bodies were broken down. We were in a massive calorie deficit. And physically, with only 6 months training, that's why we got so many injuries. In fact, the last 10 days, I ran home with a stress fracture. Well, I'll just call it a shuffle or I don't know what it was in the end, to be honest. But the last 500 Ks, I had a broken foot, got home, got an x-ray. It was completely shattered. I was on crutches for 10 weeks. So as you can imagine, the physical and strategic element of it wasn't really there on that run. But because we had what we like to call the rocket fuel, which is the why, we just had so much mental resilience to wake up every morning and to just keep moving because we knew people that were battling cancer just like our grandmother was doing it so much tougher than us. And that was really our motivation to keep going and to show people online, to inspire them that they can overcome any setback in life. And if they just have that belief and that mental resilience.
Where do you think you get that mental resilience from, though? Is it a competition between the two of you? What if one of you wanted to give up and the other one didn't? Or how does that work?
Yeah, when we were younger, we've been competing since I can remember, really. Like, I would always try to start the fights, and I think Steph would always end them because I was the little brother, so he always used to just beat me up. But yeah, we have a really competitive side, but we do love each other, and we really do it for each other as well. So on the road, where we have a saying, 80% philosophy, 20% arguments. So when we are chatting philosophy, we're pinging off the walls, we're loving it. But then when we are arguing, maybe one of us will go like 500 meters up the road just for safety reasons, so we're not getting in each other's faces. But yeah, we do love each other, and we definitely, like on the road, we're not competing. We want each other to get through.
Yeah. And I loved just now when you said you were eating like cold tuna, because so many people that do these crazy challenges, they're like, they have the perfect setup. Like they're sleeping with all of their like perfect nutrition, with their eye mask, all the technology. And I loved that you guys have really shown how tough it was and how it's not easy at all. What was the hardest day running across Australia?
The hardest day was, I think it was around day 24. So WA is the hottest part of Australia on the west coast, and over the first 12 days of the challenge, we had 10 days over 40 degrees Celsius. 1 week later, it had the greatest rain downpour in WA in the last century. So over 100 years, that was the greatest downpour. There was 400 millimeters of rain in 4 days. It was quite remarkable. So on this fourth morning, we both woke up, our alarms were set at 4 a.m. and we're like, this is the fourth day of it. There's no way it can be pissing down again today. And you wake up and it's just belting down on the top of the motorhome. We go, how are we going to get out there again today and do another marathon? So you hop out of bed and you're quite literally putting on the same drenched clothes that you wore yesterday and the 2 days before. The same runners, the same clothes. At the time, as I said, we were beginners to it. So on the Australian run, we didn't even bring any high vis. We're running on a road with road trains. We didn't have high vis. So these two Maori men. So Maoris are like big Kiwis. So they were absolutely massive. And they pulled up one day and they said, boys, here are these like 3XL high-vis shirts. So that was the only one we had. So we were wearing them every day. So this day was just dreadful. The fourth day of this downpour. And we'll quite literally, we ended up on the Australian news and they were saying that we were swimming across Australia because the road was blocked off for 300 kilometres and we were the only one on these roads at the time, and there was honestly ankle deep water and we were running in it, so it was so tough. And then that night was one of the funniest things I've seen. We got to the roadhouse and Locke's trying to run across to the shower. I'm looking out the window and he slipped over on his back. He was full of mud. It was just so funny to watch. But that was the most challenging day, and it was tough.
So the most challenging day, the most challenging thing you've ever done. So why the hell would you decide to do it again this year, but run across a different country, the UK?
You know what's funny? This is like so random, and I have no knowledge in this at all. But Steph brought this up the other day. He was talking about like females when they have like a baby. Apparently, when like girls have a baby, it's like at the time it's like the worst thing ever because it's so painful, and every mum's like, I'm never doing that again, never again. But then like a month later, you get amnesia and you're like, I want to have another baby. Like that was like the best thing ever, right? And he said, it's like the same thing with running. It's almost like you forget how much pain and adversity you go through and you just remember those really, really cool times you had. So we were like, we want to do an epic challenge every year. We want to do an epic country every single year. And we did Australia. And we're like, what's next? Well, our grandma was from the UK. She passed away. We're like, we want to go to the UK and just have like so much fun and do a route down from the very top of the UK, which is a signpost called John O'Groats. We saw it online and we're like, oh, this sign looks pretty cool. We could make a fun video here. And then there's another signpost down the very bottom of the UK called Land's End. And we're like, well, we could go to signpost to signpost. And then we found out like so many people do this and we're like, well, we can't do what everyone does. Like that's just silly. Like we can't just try to copy everyone else. We got to be original. So we kind of made up our own route and we went through all the major cities in the UK, and it was just like such an incredible experience going through those cities, seeing the whole UK. Really, really cool.
And that again was to raise money for cancer research.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've officially just raised now, I believe, over $109,000. So that's Australian dollars for Cancer Research UK. So we've actually come over here to raise money for the UK, which is just so cool. Like I honestly can't believe it. We made a video of our reaction of when we hit the $100,000 mark, and we were just celebrating, going nuts. And it was 7:30 a.m. at a caravan park, and literally like 30 seconds after we celebrated, and everyone was like DMing us after this video went out, and like, oh, this is the coolest thing. Anyway, 30 seconds off camera, this guy like out of the caravan next to us, he's like, oi, shut up, it's 7:30 a.m, what are you doing? And we're like, oh, sorry, mate. Like, but that was really cool. That was down near Land's End.
So you were describing it like childbirth and you forget the pain. Do you think it's because you're addicted to the dopamine hit of competing a challenge like this? Because I think that's why I run. It's like giving yourself a challenge that you don't know if you can do, but deep down you believe that you can. Do you think part of that was like you were missing that feeling that you got before running across Australia?
I definitely think the dopamine is a big part of it. And I don't know if this does sound crazy though, but Locke and I, it was day one, so we're at the Land's End signpost and we're doing this video. So we're going to say, you know, hi, my name's Locke. It's day one of running the UK. And then we wanted to say a one-liner, and Locke said, I'm searching for my breaking point. Like, I want to find my breaking point. I want to feel that pain that I haven't felt in so long. And it blew me down. I think he did find that breaking point on this run. But I think we're also got to the point now where we want to, like, find where our limits lie. And we want to, you know, I think so many people have these beliefs of what their limits are, but you can actually achieve so much more than what you expect. Like, the human potential is nothing is impossible unless you actually try it and then figure out if you can do it for yourself. So I think that's where we're at in our journey as well. We're trying to find what our limits are, and that's a big part of why we like to show up again and see what we actually are capable of achieving, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's addictive. You just push yourself that little bit further every single time. How different was this to running across Australia? Which was harder and how were they different?
Yeah, this was just different from the top down. Obviously, the people met some interesting characters in Scotland. Yeah, with the accents, couldn't understand a lot of the Scottish people. The landscape here is crazy. We actually climbed up almost 3 Mount Everest in elevation across the whole United Kingdom, whereas as Australia, we only climbed up 10,000 meters. So Australia took us like 3 times as long, but we didn't climb even half as much. So the elevation was one thing, and elevation is just like a whole new ball game as opposed to just running. It really is hard on the body. But to answer your question, what was tougher? I think this one felt so much sweeter at the finish line. If you watch the video of when we ran across Australia and we were at the finish and there was thousands of people there down in Melbourne, we were celebrating, jumping up and down like we just kicked the goal to win the World Cup. But we got to the line in the UK at Land's End and we both just broke down crying. We had nothing left in the tank. We just ripped a 74-kilometre day and I could barely stand in the morning. Steph was struggling himself. And it was just so tough because this project, we just had setback after setback after setback. And I suppose we will get into a couple of those setbacks in a moment. But yeah, it was just so much sweeter because the adversity that we actually had to go through was so much more.
I keep thinking back to those last few videos that you posted and I was like showing my boyfriend and I was like, I can't believe I'm speaking to them next week. Like, are they even going to make it into the podcast studio? Like, it did sound like the most insane thing and you pushed yourself so far. You were talking about the elevation. How did you train for this? And for the Australia one, like, did you train in any mountains or was it like just running laps to your local park?
So for the Australian run, it was quite literally just running laps of our local park. We would just go to the local areas and we'd just find like, we love just running to find like a coffee. I think it's the double dopamine hit. It's like, so for the Australian run, we would just run to all these local cafes just on flat surfaces. But then every time we faced hills on the Australian run, we'd always come out the next few days and be so sore, so injured. Like our tib ants were just blown up, our shins, our Achilles. So for this run, we thought, you know what, we're going to have to lock in. So essentially what we did is we moved out to the Dandenong Ranges. So it's a part of Melbourne where essentially there's just mountains. We like to call it the woods. So we moved out into the middle of the woods. We got a 6-month lease and every day was a running playground. So we'd just go out into the trails with bare minimal food. We'd take our trail vest, maybe a couple of dates. We would set our watches, but we wouldn't even really look at them. And we'd just go for hours through these trails and just run every morning. And we didn't train. We just like to say we're living every day out there. And that's how we best prepared for this challenge. We were isolated from society. And I think, as Locke mentioned, that's why this one felt so sweet at the end, because we knew how much work we had put in and we had quite literally sacrificed everything in our lives to prepare for this challenge.
I love that. It sounds like you actually really enjoyed the journey of getting there rather than just chasing that final day, like completing the next challenge. I think so many people like just go for the next goal, and they forget like the real enjoyment. You have to enjoy the training. Why do you run? Like, why did you want to go out and do all that training?
Yeah, so I think we have like a dual, maybe I'll call it a trio purpose. So the first is we want to inspire hope into all those battling cancer. So cancer is obviously very, very close to us. And now we've raised over $360,000 for cancer research, which is so cool. And in 2 different countries as well. So cancer is like the North Star. Mm-hmm. The second reason is we really just want to inspire people to get up and have a crack themselves. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a 5K walk. It doesn't matter if you're trying to do a 2.5-hour marathon, or it doesn't matter if you're trying to run across the country like the UK. All that matters is that for you're getting outside your comfort zone, even a cold shower, even doing a meditation, a breathing session, just inspiring people to just get after their own goals. I think that's a really big one. And the third one is we really do believe in defining our own limits. So we want to push ourselves. We kind of see ourselves as a bone. Like when a bone breaks, it grows back over the 6 to 8 weeks. But if you look at an x-ray of a bone after it breaks, after that 6 to 8 weeks, it's more dense, it's more white on the x-ray, so it grows back stronger. And that's how we like to view the mind. We like to break it down, so we can build it up stronger and stronger and stronger.
I think that is what you did.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about a normal day in this challenge? Like, how did it go? Just a normal day.
So we'd wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, and the first thing you'd probably do is look down at your Garmin. You'd see a sleep score below 20. On the final day, we both woke up. We got a photo on our Instagram, and our training readiness was 1.
Turns out, apparently, you can't have a training readiness of 0. So we did the math, and it was the lowest it could possibly be for both of us.
So the first thing we would do is we'd look at the objective data, but that would never be sweet in the morning. We'd wake up, have a long black coffee, a lot of caffeine, and then later on in the day, we'd definitely crack a couple of Celsiuses. We like to do the first 8 kilometers fasted. We just found, like, after the first, I guess, like 10 days, eating in the morning was just so tough on the gut. That was one of the biggest challenges we faced during this challenge. So we'd fast the first 8 to 10 Ks, and then every 10 kilometers would have a pit stop. So our support team would be there. We'd get in some more calories, some more caffeine, and we'll just keep moving throughout the day. We'd come back at the end of the day, do some content with our videographer, and then go back into our motorhome. And this is probably the toughest part of the day. And what people don't realize, doing a marathon in the comforts of your own home, coming back to a warm cooked meal, a warm shower. For us, it was nothing like that. Some days we didn't even shower at all. The motorhome had no water in it. Locke actually got gastro, the mid portion of the trip from the water inside the motorhome. The food was very average and the living conditions were dire. The toilet leaked in the first week, so the whole motorhome quite literally smelled like piss. My bed was flooded underneath it. And every single night, it was just so hard to sleep. Particularly, I think London had like a heat wave, the UK, the central section for a week. And it was just so hot. So it was so hard to sleep. And that's the biggest way you're going to recover is obviously your food and your sleep. And when you're not getting the best sources of nutrition and you're not sleeping well, it was so tough. So you wake up in the morning to do it all over again, run another 50 Ks or 30 miles, and you feel like you haven't recovered at all.
Did you want to just show the good bits at any point? Or was it really important for you guys to be like, this is the reality of how hard this is?
I think a bit of both. I think like we're very, very energetic people and we want to like jump into the phone, into the camera. We love just bringing the energy, but we also wanted to show people what it truly is. Like when we ran across Australia, I think that's one thing we missed a little bit. We kind of showed the happy clappy side a little bit more. But off camera, it was tough and it was hard. And I think people are attracted to that suffering and the true raw reality of what it was. So I just love getting that across in the content. But literally like 70% of the stuff that actually happened still on this trip, we couldn't put it on camera because it was just that like dire. Like it just couldn't be shown to the world. Some of the stuff, which we can show you some of it afterwards, it was just absolutely wild.
Can you tell us any of it now? Where was the pits of this challenge?
Yeah, or you can get into it.
Well, I think the pits of this challenge was day 28. And we're on the second leg of the day, and Locke said, Steph, like, my feet are just absolutely killing. And at the time, we didn't know what was wrong. We called like 111, which is like the doctors in the UK, and Locke had a call, and they believed it was some hives, like bacteria infection in his feet. And he goes, Steph, like, this is really bad. And he took his shoes off and he just started shaking on the ground. It was as though he was like, you know, he had epilepsy or schizophrenia, and I couldn't speak to him. He was having uncontrollable shakes, and it was like there was demons inside of him. And he was trying to talk. He said, Steph, it feels like I'm getting stung by 1,000 wasps right now. And I called our support team and I said, guys, like, we need to go to the hospital. Like, this is getting really, like, quite serious now. And I'm worried for Locke's health. We went into the hospital. We were waiting there for probably 8 hours until we got into the ER section, and Locke finally got to see a doctor because the first 2 nurses he spoke to, unfortunately, just couldn't diagnose him. They had never seen anything like it. And the doctor essentially said to Locke that he had this rare blood infection that he's only ever seen twice in his life. So this was the second time he had only ever seen it. And he said this case was so much worse than the first one. And it was just like such a tough moment seeing Locke there, and he had a steroid infusion like being pumped through his body for a few hours. And at one point, 5 nurses had to come into the room, and Locke was just screaming in pain, and like the nurses just didn't understand like what was going on. It was as though he was like psychopathic, and he was just screaming, and I had to get these buckets of water and like put his feet in it to try to give him a little bit of relief. And I was sort of just like standing there like bawling my eyes out, not knowing if, you know, finishing this challenge is actually going to be possible at this point. And looking back on it now, like, I'm so proud of my brother for getting through that moment in time. And after the steroid infusion over the next 48 to 72 hours, I think it started to kill off, but the damaged feet that it left Locke's feet feet in that state was just, it was terrible. And yeah, I think that was the toughest moment of this challenge for me.
Yeah, it's so scary, and I'm so pleased you're doing well now. Did you discuss before the challenge at what point you call it? Because as a brother, did like your instinct care like kick in? You're like, I can't put my brother like through this. Like, do we have to stop? Or did you want to give up? What happened?
Yeah, I can answer this one. No one's actually heard this before. This is a first, which is kind of cool for you guys. But like this all starts 6 weeks before the project in the woods where we live in Australia, and we actually had a training camp. So we did 4 days of 55 kilometers, and the last day, like Steph couldn't move. His knee was like crazy sore. Anyway, we had this thing where we're going to do a mile every day of running, and the day after the training camp, he tried to do a mile, and he did a mile in 19 minutes, which you can literally walk faster. And he's like, bro, my knee is bad. Anyway, he went to the physio, and the physio said like he's teetering on a stress fracture in his femur. So where like your knee attaches to like the bone that goes through your thigh, he had like a massive line through the middle of it. So he thought it was going to fracture through the middle of the femur. So before the project started, Steph didn't actually run for 6 weeks. So he literally just had to walk until we got to the start line. And the physio was like, bro, at best, you're 50-50 to even toe the start line. And a couple of days in, like literally 2 days into the challenge, his knee blew up like a balloon. And we're like, the physio was like, you got to pull out. That's going to become a stress fracture. It's done. I don't know what happened. It was a miracle. Somehow the knee inflammation went down. But our contingency plan was like, you either run to the van, which is going to be 8 to 10 Ks away, or you go straight to hospital. There's no in between. It's like you've either got like a fracture and like you're completely written off and you go to hospital and you get it checked out, or like you're completely sick like I was with my blood infection where I physically couldn't move anymore. So you either go to the pit stop or you go to hospital. That was essentially the contingency plan.
Oh, yeah, your blood infection was the last week. Do you think if it had happened earlier on, you would have been like, I can't do this challenge? Was it the thought, okay, just a few more days to go? I literally don't know how you did the last few days.
Yeah, so obviously I think it happened, like I went to the hospital and I actually had 3 days of it before I went to the hospital, and the doctor said when did this actually start to happen? And I said 3 days ago. He's like, there's no way you've been doing ultra marathons on this. And I'm like, no, I actually have. And he said like, how have you kept going to the finish line? Like your feet would have to be amputated. They're that crazy. Like in the socks, if you're not pumped with a steroid infusion straight away, you're going to fall into septic shock, which is like a bad infection. And at the time I was like, crap, I got to finish this and average like 55 kilometers for the next 5 days. And then I got to hit like a 74 kilometer run on the last day. Like this is almost impossible. But had it have happened earlier, I just have this saying with Steph, and our saying is, if you can stand, you can walk. If you can walk, you can jog. And if you can jog, you can run. So as long as I could stand, I was still going to show up and rip an ultra marathon. That was my philosophy. So to answer your question, I think I would have literally just gone until I physically couldn't have gone anymore. So I don't know, but I believe I could have got there still.
Did any of the Lambros Army or your family tell you to pack it in?
Everyone. The doctor said, pack it in, mate. Like, so he told me I wasn't allowed to wear socks, let alone stand, let alone run an ultra marathon for 2 weeks. So he said off legs for 2 weeks minimum because this was very severe. And then mum was actually the support crew. So she's gone from wanting to kick us out of the house before the Australian run to support crewing us in the UK run. So I'd wake up in the morning and having your mum there, like God bless her, she's so sweet. It's great. Like she gives you so much love, but she was just spooling her eyes at every morning. And she was just like, and even my dad, like I was telling you before, he's a pretty tough nut, and he's just like calling him on the phone, like, bro, you just got to pull out. This is really, really bad. Doctor's saying I got to pull out. Mum and dad are saying I got to pull out. Dom, our videographer, he's done ultra marathons before. He's like, mate, this is the most craziest thing I've ever seen. And Steph was like, bro, like, I believe in you. I believe you're gonna do this, but we've got to almost pull you out. It's that bad. So everyone was saying like, pull out. But in my head, I was like, I believe I can still do this, and I believe I can keep my feet at the end of it. So I'm gonna go. Even if I have to lose a toe or even a foot, I'm still gonna charge to that finish line.
It's just so mental. Like your self-belief, and obviously you obviously really back yourself and your body. Do you have any tips for anyone wanting to give up at any point of their training, or any advice or motivation for anyone listening at home?
Yeah, I would always say if you are going through like a challenging time, definitely if it does feel that bad, like seek medical attention first. Like myself with my knee prior to the trip, I had to get that MRI and it did show that there was a stress fracture in my femur, and then the physio, said I was a 50-50 at best. And then with Locke, obviously at that point in that second leg, we had to take him to the hospital, but it was bad. But just getting to the doctor and getting that steroid infusion first is important. But I guess the biggest thing that we do to get through those moments is we really focus on gratitude, and we focus on just being extremely positive. We've just rewired our minds to be positive in the most dire situations. So I would wake up in the morning and I would always just try to like crack shit jokes. Like Locke was struggling
Terrible
so much.
jokes.
I would be piggybacking him out of the motorhome in the morning, or he'd be crutching out. The first mile was in probably 20 minutes towards the end of the run. So it was so slow because he just couldn't stand on his feet. But straight away off the bat, the first thing we'd do, I'd be like, Locke, tell me 10 things you're grateful for. Like, just would always just focus on gratitude, and I would just crack shit jokes. We just try to find humour and positives in the most dire situations.
And I imagine you're incredibly grateful for each other. Do you think you could have done it solo?
I don't think I could have done it solo, and I don't think I could have done the Australian run solo either.
Definitely not. No, I think we both pull each other along. That's why it's so special.
And how did it feel to finish running across the UK together?
It was the most euphoric moment of my life, and the moment that meant the most to me. I broke down just bawling my eyes out because, as we said, there was just so much setbacks along the way. Myself not being able to run for the 6 weeks before the project, and I was training by just walking around the block, and then to show up and do an ultra marathon on day one, and then for Locke to see him face so much adversity the last 2 weeks. First he had gastro, then his shin was just absolutely destroyed, and then he got this blood infection. So to see him go through so many setbacks but still overcome that, and then be able to run a 74-kilometre ultra marathon on the final day of the UK, despite the first kilometre being in 16 minutes, it was just such a proud moment, and we really did prove to ourselves, wow, like, what are we actually capable of if we got through this run with so many setbacks? If we just keep showing up and training hard over the next couple of years, what can we actually achieve? And what started out as just two Aussie brothers with mullets just having a massive crack to raise money for cancer research across Australia has now turned into a global community of thousands of people sharing their cancer stories with us and telling us how we inspired them to wake up out of bed in the morning, to run, to be active, to take a cold shower. It's just so special, and I'm honestly so proud we've been able to do that and inspire so many other people to start up their own challenges and essentially, live a better future.
I mean, I'm inspired listening. What does the future hold? Where do you think you'll go from here?
Well, the first thing I'm looking at it'll probably take me 2 minutes to get out of this door with these crutches. So that's the first obstacle. But yeah, after the next week or two, hopefully I'm off these crutches and I can unbandage my feet. And then hopefully get my feet right, first things first. And then the next thing is just like getting crazier and crazier with it. Like I suppose it can be a little bit scary because like the more you push yourself, the more you realize how capable you are. And then the further you have to push yourself to even get a little bit of a dopamine hit, right? It's like a runner's, you might go on like a 5K at the start and you're like, wow, like that was just fantastic. Like I am achieving big things right now. But then it's like a 5K in a year's time might not be doing it for you. You need to do a 10K, a 20K, a marathon. So I think for us, we don't want to uproot all the time and think like bigger is better. I think, as you kind of said before, like the period after the run, like connecting with nature and really valuing the process is so important. Like today is just as special as the final day of the run, the final day of the Australian run, the final day of the UK run. But I think definitely we'll be looking to run across a very big country either next year or the year after. And if we aren't running across a big country next year, there's going to be a very, very big challenge within Australia that involves running. And I think it might be quite hot as well, but we'll see.
I'm excited and I want to join the Lambros Army, and we wish you the best of luck. We're going to segue over into Steph's coaching tip of the week.
My top tip today is around training in conditions or on terrains that make it that bit harder to hit your target paces. Pace is a really great metric if we are running on flat surface in optimal weather conditions, but sometimes these things will just be out of our control. If the conditions make it challenging, then run to effort. On your runner plan, you can switch all your sessions to RPE. This is your rate of perceived exertion. Remember, if you're banking the effort, then you're getting great work in.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by the Runna app, the #1 rated running coaching service worldwide. If you want to try the app today, use code podcast25 for 2 weeks totally for free. And please do remember to rate, follow and subscribe to us on your listening platform to help us climb the rankings and so that we can keep bringing you the most interesting and amazing guests.
Thanks for that, Steph. I'm going to bring us back with our discussion sent in from one of our runners. Okay, you guys, what's the biggest thing you've each learned since completing your challenges?
The biggest lesson that I've learned along the way is the limits that we set on ourselves are often lies. In life, you're so much more capable to achieve what you believe to be impossible. And the only way to find that out is to actually just go out there and try. We are all so much more capable to achieve anything in life. You've just got to have belief in that process. And I believe it's just so important to focus on gratitude and positivity every day. We're surrounded by so much stimulation. So if you can just rewire your brain to keep showing up every day and to be extremely positive, we truly are limitless.
Yeah.
Love that. Mine would definitely be that pain is temporary, regret is forever. So I imagine us all in a big bubble. So imagine yourself with this big blue bubble around you. And at the end of the bubble, you obviously have the edge of the bubble, right? And this bubble inside of it represents our limit. This is like our comfort zone. So many people will spend their whole life within this little comfort zone, within this bubble. And I believe in just constantly poking it, like just poke your little finger out and just like keep poking this bubble, because what you will find is that you do define your own limits. As Steph was just saying, you define your own limits, but you just got to constantly keep stepping out of your comfort zone and realize that pain is nor good nor bad. Pain is so subjective. A little bit of pain can sometimes actually be a really good thing because it allows you to step outside your comfort zone and achieve greatness. And if you think about the one biggest achievement in your life, I don't know what it is, but I know that you've done amazing things in your life. But with that achievement, I guarantee what comes with it as a byproduct is a hell of a lot of sacrifice. And in there, it might not be physical pain. It might be a bit of mental pain. It might be like you had to do this big assignment for uni or graduated from uni or you did this marathon. But what I've realized is that from the biggest sacrifices we make in life comes the biggest reward. And you just got to keep poking that comfort zone, keep poking that bubble to expand yourself and to really get the most out of life.
I can resonate with both of those so much because I'm always like, I've got to embrace that pain because you know that's where you get the reward. And then similarly with the gratitude, I always think about like 10 things I'm grateful for, because it's that like positive reinforcement that, you know, if everything's going well, you get into this flow state and then you start appreciating little things, then it just gets better and better. Whereas it's so easy to do the opposite and kind of like downward spiral if you start to notice all the bad things going on. This or that, guys. So a bit of a sillier few questions for you. Would you rather only be able to listen to one song on repeat or only eat one type of food throughout a whole challenge?
I would say one type of food.
What food would that be?
Beef mince.
Did you eat a lot of that?
Yeah, a lot of it.
Did you listen to music?
We do listen to music, yeah. Steph's music taste is just something out of this world. I don't know what you listen to. He listens to some random stuff. But I'm going to say listen to one song. This is a bit of a really off-the-cuff one, but I've been listening to... I watched the movie Wicked the other day. It's like a bit of a... It's a bit of like a... It's like a, I don't know if it's a Disney movie, but it's like a kid's movie.
Yeah.
And like the song Defying Gravity, it's like kind of like a kid's song where it's just a banger. And it's like an 8-minute belter of a song. It's almost like... It's like these... like Ariana Grande singing it, and I could just have that on repeat all day.
The conflict between you Aussie guys with your mullets and then you listening to like the Wicked musical soundtrack is really funny. Okay, secondly, would you rather do the worst day of your challenge again or run the best day of your challenge over and over until you reach 1,000 kilometers?
Definitely the worst day again. I think the setbacks are where you get the most growth, and it helps define the person that you become. So definitely for me, the worst day.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same. I'm going to say the worst day. I can't see myself running another 1,000 kilometers or 1,000 miles.
Yeah, but the worst day was pretty bad for you. Okay, most likely to. I like that we've got brothers on so we can do this one. Most likely to get lost having the route saved on your watch.
100% Steph. We got lost so many times. For reference, our mum was driving the van, and as any older mum does, like she's you know, someone doesn't know how to use a phone when they're clicking it like this with a finger, and she's clicking it like with her index finger, so she had no idea with the map. So we were on navs the whole time, and when my leg got sore, Steph was on navs, and we get through any city, and he's just like, oh, this way, this way, this way, and then we run that way for like 50 meters, like, oh no, we're going back this way, and then this way, and then this way. So yeah, we're all over the place. And there was multiple days we had to go through like farmlands, jump fences, and that's because you can't navigate.
Yeah, I'll definitely take that one. I think our run was supposed to be 1,600 kilometers or 1,000 miles. We ended up doing about 50 Ks extra for the trip, so yeah, that was on me.
Most likely to cry at the finish and blame it on sweat.
I think I'm most likely to cry at the finish, but to blame it on sweat, definitely Locke. He's more the one to blame it on something else.
I think that's fair, yeah.
Did you both break down at the finish though?
We both did break down at the finish. Locke was more expected. I think the team, Locke, Dom, they were taking the piss out of me a little bit because they didn't expect me to break down, but I think I broke down the worst.
You definitely did.
Most likely to give a 6 a.m. motivational speech.
Steph, 100%. We're in the van, and he'll grab us by the throat. He said, who's going to carry the bolts? Like David Goggins quoting him. And then like I'm getting up, and so yeah, 6 a.m. we're actually like probably 8 Ks in by then. And I've just done my first kilometer in like 16 and a half minutes. He's like, mate, that is fantastic, mate. You're flying out of the blocks today. Like, we're on for a great day today. I'm just like, oh, jeez. Like, I'm in for a huge day.
I love
So
that.
positive.
When you when I ran marathons and people are like, you look great, you look so strong. And I'm like, I don't. Like, I really don't. Okay, most likely to be wearing the same running kit for 3 days straight.
Definitely Locke. I think he rotated through 2 pairs of shorts on the whole trip, and I think that one shirt.
Yeah, I had the same. I was at the point where like I had so little energy. I had the same tape on for like a week and a half because I just couldn't take it off. I would just lie horizontal in bliss.
And lastly, the most competitive. Who will claim that they're not, but sprint the last kilometre?
I think you definitely love the competitive element of it. Steph, he loves to make a competition out of everything. And I remember it was like day 5, and he looked at me, he's like, mate, this is an eating contest, and I got you covered.
I want to run with you guys. I need you next to me for my next marathon. Just being like, you're doing great, you look great. Oh, okay. Oh, maybe I could actually run with you. I want you to describe your dream race. Where is it? What distance is it? What food and drink is being served? And who would present you with your reward? You can have one each.
I can go off the cuff. I can probably guarantee this has never been said before, although I don't know. But I would love to run, like, so it's across Antarctica. Let's say it's like 10 marathons across Antarctica. The food is like the snow. You know how you have like the snow cones?
Yeah.
The snow with like a bit of like topping on it. So just picking it up out of the snow and eating that. And then presenting my medal, I would have my big 16-year-old Labrador named Snowy, and he would have the medal over his head, and like he can't really stand up on his back legs now, but he just something like the wind goes and blows his front legs up, and he stands up and gives me the medal, and yeah, that would be it.
Snow, and snowy. That would be easy to organise.
How good's that, right?
Yeah. Would you be the same?
No, I wouldn't be the same. I think my dream race would be a marathon somewhere out in nature, in the mountains. So a really, really tough run, like the toughest run you can imagine, with a lot of elevation, a lot of technical terrain. And Locke and I are just out there together, speaking philosophy, cracking shit jokes. And all we've got is a trail vest. We have limited water, and it's not good conditions. It's either really hot or it's pissing down, because I don't want it to be easy. And in those trail vests, maybe like one thing of water to share, a couple of dates, maybe a couple of lollies, a gel, limited fuel so we can actually, feel the rough of it. And then at the finish line, David Goggins is just standing there presenting the medals, and we're up and about.
This is so different from a 5K park run. I'll have pizza and beer at the finish line, and I love those. Would both of your races be mass participation, or would they just be you two?
Just for me, it's just us two.
Yeah, just us two.
but you can inspire the others, everybody else
Absolutely.
listening, to do their
Yeah.
own version.
Exactly
Yeah.
right.
We've never loved to race. We just love to run out in like nature. And I was thinking about before. Yeah, I've never done like an actual marathon event before, but obviously I've done so many marathons or ultra marathons. I just love to connect with nature and just feel everything.
I'm so inspired from this whole conversation, and I truly believe what you just said. You really do love the process, and I think it's an inspiration to so many people of how far we can really push ourselves if we believe in ourselves, and I think our listeners at home will take a lot from this. So thank you so much for giving us the exclusive, and congratulations for everything you've achieved in the last few years.
Thanks so much for having us on. It's been an absolute privilege.
Thank you.